What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. It's not good, boys. But it's okay. This is weird. The Saints are 3-3. 3-3 is not awful, right? 3-3 is pretty good. It's better than being 2-4 or 1-3, for instance, obviously, or 1-5. But I've been diving into some numbers, and there's especially one Jeff Duncan tweet that kind of has me a bit concerned. Now, and concerned that the Saints might not just be like, because right now I think most would say, okay, this is like a mediocre NFL team, right? 9-8, 7-10, 8-9, somewhere in that range. And maybe that ends up being the case. I mean, they have all the playmakers, everything else that we've been talking about. But I don't know, man. You start to look holistically, and this is a team that can't score, especially in the red zone, which we'll get into. They have an offensive line that was already one of the worst in the league, especially from a grading standpoint. Now they're injured to all hell, and they commit a ton of penalties. I mean, just a ton of penalties. And they have a quarterback who, unfortunately, has been kind of bad in the red zone his entire career. And here's the damning piece of contextual evidence that put me into this funk when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, Jake. This comes from a Jeff Duncan tweet. The Saints' 3 wins. Who have the Saints' 3 wins come against?
Patriots.
Yep.
Not great teams.
The Panthers.
Yep.
And the Titans, who are also not doing well.
Have you looked up their records? Titans are 2-4.
3 wins between them, right?
Patriots are 1-5. And the Panthers are 0-6. That is a combined winning percentage of .167 for the opponents that you have beaten, which is by far the lowest of the entire NFL for anybody with 3 wins. So the schedule is just as easy as we thought it was entering the year, and yet the Saints have still underachieved within the context of that schedule. Like the teams that they beat, everybody's beaten. And they couldn't manage to beat the teams that they should have outside of that, like a Green Bay, like a Houston, bringing a rookie quarterback to bear.
Yeah. The schedule, I mean, honestly, was one of the reasons why I think a lot of us were expecting double-digit wins.
True.
I mean, the talent that you had certainly played into it, but it was the schedule, and it was the quarterbacks that you didn't have to face. And you were, thinking, all right, rookie quarterback, certainly like week 2 against the Panthers where you got a victory, but even Jordan Love, not a rookie quarterback by any means, but he hadn't played, never been the starter. So, I mean, we went over the list, went over the quarterbacks. It doesn't really matter when your offense sucks, too. Doesn't really matter if the rookie quarterback's not playing great.
Yeah.
Because you're out there scoring 16, 20, 18, 9. You got the 34 in the Patriots game. That's the outlier here. And then you score 13 in the Texans game.
It's unreal. You're on pace to throw for 14 touchdowns. In the modern NFL, through over a quarter of the season, a quarter and a half, in fact, you're on pace to throw for 14 touchdowns immediately after you pay a quarterback $40 million. That is inexcusable. That is disastrous. That is exactly what we're getting at. That is the sign of a bad team. Right now, and I'm starting to feel, so I talked a lot of Florida yesterday on Snaps and Graham Mertz, and everybody's going to tell you that Graham Mertz is playing awesome, and it's not that he's playing bad, and his numbers are okay. I mean, his numbers are actually good. They look really good on paper. But then you look up, and Florida has the 11th scoring offense in the SEC. So what are we talking about, right? So it's like Derek Carr right now, yeah, what would he throw for Sunday? Like 350 yards? Dude, a ton of success between the 30s, but cannot score. Empty calories. The Saints right now are 27th in the NFL. They've converted their red zone opportunities into touchdowns just 36% of the time. And granted, look, numbers are down across the NFL. I think it's like 56% overall, so it's harder than ever to score in the red zone, but that's still pathetic. I mean, yes, if you look at Sunday, you went 0 of 5 inside the 30 and 1 of 7 inside the 34, with the Shaheed touchdown being the only successful score that you had. And then it all culminates with 4 plays inside the 30 that are likely some of the most disastrous we've ever seen. Players not reading checks the same, confusion over play calls, leading to missed timeouts, miscommunications, just awful. And here's another Jeff Duncan depressing contextual tweet. Derek Carr has completed just 11 of 25 passes in the red zone. 44% in a league where 65% has become the expectation. Inside the 10, he's 3 for 11, 27%. There is only one quarterback who is worse inside the 10 this year. Do y'all know who it is?
Mac Jones.
Nope, not Mac Jones. Close. It is a Jones.
Oh, it's got to be Daniel Jones.
Yes, the Daniel Jones varietal. Mm-hmm. Which, hey, he's highly paid too. So,
yeah, both got paid way more money than they probably should have.
Okay, so it's like, I mean, what does it do to you, Jake, to hear those red zone numbers?
It tells the story of the film, but still, like, going back to it, if you weren't watching the film, it'd be, okay, well, yeah, that plays out, because that's where you're not having success, and that's why you can have all these empty yards where you can, create all these stats, but it doesn't really turn into points. And you don't have to look any farther than how they ended the game last week. I mean, that just turned into backyard football. Like, draw it up in the dirt. What are we doing? Like, hey, all verts. Like, you're screaming at your buddies. You're playing intramural football, and you need to score, and you're like, nah, all verts.
Yeah, it looked like a
never
panic.
It looked like it had never been a situation they went over. I mean, even maybe it was the second. It could have been the first play, but you got players, veteran players like Michael Thomas, looking around like they're trying to get a timeout called, and they snap the ball. Like, that can't happen. You got a quarterback in Derek Carr who's played as many times as he has, been a starter for a decade in the league. You got Michael Thomas. You've got all these weapons that are veteran players, and they're looking around because they don't know the play. And I don't think it's because they weren't in the playbook. It wasn't communicated properly. And that entire series, certainly the last 4 plays, looked like a series that wasn't on the same page by any means. And so I don't know what happens. I'm not sure what those last 4 plays. I know I keep harping on it. That was the worst 4 plays to end a game I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yes,
in my NFL career, watching football, talking football, that was you quiet quit on the game.
Yeah. Well, and so it's so you're starting to see a picture take place here. You're awful in the red zone, which is the time when you need to be executing your highest and at your best. And granted, this is something that Derek Carr has struggled with his entire career, so he bears, the most culpability in this regard. You're also, though, awful when it comes to committing penalties. The Saints right now are 3rd worst in the NFL, 43 penalties for 406 yards. Let's once again dive into Jeff Duncan's tweets. The Saints have been whistled for a league-high 55 penalties, so they've actually been called more than any team in the league. 12 have been declined. It's a lot of holding penalties in which you didn't convert it anyway, so they didn't care, right? So a league-high 55 penalties for a league-high 406 yards. They lead the NFL in offensive holding, Jake. They've been called for 18 holding penalties in 6 games, averaging 3 a game. How many drives do you get in an NFL game? Do you know? Isn't it like 8?
I was going to go 9, so let's go with 8.
Somewhere in the 8 to 10 range, right? The numbers on what holding penalties do to drives are astounding. Like, they almost always kill the drive. So you're telling me you get 8 to 10 opportunities and you average 3 offensive holdings a game? So what, you're basically an offense that's just going to have to try to operate with 5 to 6, 5 to 7 drives a game? Absolutely pathetic. 18 holding penalties. You have 9. Oh, you also lead the NFL with 9 defensive pass interference penalties. And you've given up 16 first downs by penalties to your opponents, which is tied for 2nd in the league.
And that would track with the players not being on the same page as the coaches. And they're not being disciplined right now.
So what are we arriving at? What does this all paint a picture of? And this isn't even getting into some of the personnel issue, the fact that you've invested so much in the offensive line, first and second round picks, and guys aren't developing, guys aren't playing well, and now guys are hurt to all hell. But we can talk about the injuries because that's a bit of a different topic. The point is, so you're at your worst in the red zone when you need to be at your best, but not and like a discombobulated worst, like an embarrassing, like Jake said, like maybe the worst sequence ever worse. You commit way too many penalties, which is a sign of an undisciplined team, a team that's not on the same level as its coaches. And your players that you're drafting with these very high resources are not developing. All of this is painting a picture of just a badly coached football team. And it's not to blame the coaches, because as I said, Derek Carr's never been good in the red zone. And so what I now feel clear about with Derek Carr is, Jake, he's not capable of being one of those guys that's going to lift a team up by its bootstraps, right? It's not fair to compare him to Drew Brees, but Drew Brees took subpar rosters and made them viable in the NFL. Like they didn't give Drew Brees offensive line resources for a long stretch of the middle portion of his career, right? Finally, until the Max Unger trade when they were struggling through 7 and 9. Like before that, they didn't care about receivers. They just wanted Drew Brees to just go and make everything work. And he did. But Derek Carr's not that guy. If you look at when he's had success in the NFL, he's had to have good coaching. Whether it was him and John Gruden flourishing together or him and Jack Del Rio. But what happened last time he was with Dennis Allen, who objectively was a very bad coach in Oakland? They were awful. And objectively, Dennis Allen has not been a very good coach here, and they are pretty awful right now. So it's a pretty bleak picture when you really start to look holistically at what's gone on with the Saints this year. And again, all of this is offset by an easier schedule and that you've managed to somehow go 3-3. But every trend, every marker is that of a 1-5 team, a 2-4 team, an 0-6 team. So I don't know. I don't feel great about it. And now you got the Jags on a short week, and James Hurst, Ryan Ramczyk, Landon Young all look like they're probably going to miss the game. 3 tackles. So what? I mean, you got Penning.
That weren't very good in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. But now you got to go to the guys who are even worse. So you got Penning at left tackle. You're going to have Pete at left guard at least still. McCoy, Ruiz. No idea who's going to play right tackle. It's
Sadoveri probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the yeah.
He had to play the last game too,
Yeah.
so you would think. Penning had some awful penalties in the second half of the game. Had one clipping, had a holding when he got beat. He's been a key culprit the penalties you were talking about.
Well, to be clear, why do you, yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons why you get all those holdings is because you're getting your ass kicked and you're getting beat constantly. And so you're having to try to recover. But then again, like I said, they also lead the league in pass interference. I mean, that's Dennis Allen's group, the secondary. That's what he's supposed to do. And we say the defense is very good, and they are, but you have to be better in that regard. You cannot just keep giving up free yards that lead to scores, especially when you can't score. 36% in the red zone. Pathetic. So, you know, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. You want to feel like people could change, and I hope that they do. But I'll be damned if that Dennis Allen record isn't looming very large in my head this morning, as it feels like you kind of got what you knew the guy was.
Yeah, it's what you're leaning back on, right? When times are tough, you try to remember fonder times. You try to remember the good times. You try to remember the successful times. Well, times are tough, and you remember what it was, which was bad football, which was, a coach getting fired. It was a coach and quarterback that was together in their former spot that are now back together. The YouTube audience got to see that. I wish our radio audience got to see you trying to fight that sneeze back.
I thought you were
That was a valiant effort.
No, I just got overwhelmed by a sneeze.
Thought you were wincing at the current state of affairs for the Saints.
Yeah, no,
really.
I mean, I'm allergic to awful football.
Yeah,
and that's what you're being served up.
Again,
you beat it's the NFL, so games are always going to be close, but even those bad teams that you beat, I mean, they were a little too close to comfort. Like, I don't know, man. I'm feeling pretty down here on this Wednesday morning after really thinking about this Saints team all morning.
Yeah, and if Flynn does come in, obviously he has experience with Dennis Allen as a head coach. So I'd love to kind of pick his brain about maybe when things were going the other way there, like how he responded. Was he somebody that tried everything he could possibly do to galvanize the team? Did he kind of go into the shadows?
Yeah, it's a good question. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.